Okay, I've never talked to the computer like this before, so let's see how this works. Anyway, one of the biggest questions people have of the MU2000 is what kind of software does it actually use? And most people want to use XGWorks. XGWorks will work, of course, but it's a bit out of date. The proper software to actually use with these later Yamaha modules is Yamaha SOL, S-O-L. Man, shit out of luck, but really it stands for Sequencer Object Linking. And I have this because I bought the full audio set, so it came with the module. And a few years ago, you could find this software on Amazon Japan for like nothing. Lately, it seems to be a bit harder to find. It does use a CD key, so sorry, I will not, publicly share my copy because I've got my own personal CD key. But anyway, yeah, if you actually manage to import an MU2000, you shouldn't have too much trouble finding the software as well. Sol is basically a... here, let's load it up. It's essentially... I mean, you could almost consider it XGWorks 5, but not really. It's more of a combination of between both Midi and audio. Basically, how this is meant to work is you can plug your, say, for example, your guitar into your computer and record that as a WAV file, and then you can also have MIDI information as well, and all in one giant workstation file, and then when you're done, you can record it as a WAV file, or you can export it as an MP3. This software is like 15 years old, so nothing really newer than that, but, if you don't like MP3, you can just do it all in one massive WAV file, and then use whatever you want. And yeah, being that this is official Yamaha software, if I click here on my tone generator, it's got pretty much everything that Yamaha made from that era, except the really old stuff. Like you've got your Clavinovas, you've got your Plug XG add-on board, you've got the 1000 XG sound card, various pianos, of course. Then you've just got your general MIDI stuff, and then of course you've got the MU series, such as the the 2000EX, like I've got here. This basically tells the software what you've connected to it, so it knows what instrument maps you have and all the features. You can even use this with the software synthesizers. Note on this software, this is very old. I'm running Windows 7 64-bit, and it will install and run fine if you run the setup program off the CD in compatibility mode for like Windows XP. Like you actually have to install it under compatibility mode. Once it's installed, and it generally works just fine. I don't know about Windows 8, Windows 10, because I haven't ever bothered to use those myself. But on Windows 7 64-bit here, they do work, and this is quite useful for several reasons. For example, if I go up here to all the plugin editors, like the old school XG emulator, XG editor, like if you want to edit the the standard Yamaha XG sounds, it's all right here. And some of these older editors are technically only 16-bit programs, so if you try and launch them independently, they tend to not work. But once they're integrated into Sol, they do all work. So, if you want to use the like the DX editor here, depending, I don't have the hardware to use this, but but they're all here. And I know one question that a lot of people have had that I've seen on forums sometimes over the years is how to use the sampler on the MU2000. How do you add sample data? That's all done here for the MU sampling editor, which is included on the disk with Sol. I have not used this myself because sampling is, a level even farther than I've really ever messed with. But you can tell if it's right here if it's going to be an instrument or if it's going to be a voice, depending, if you're using a microphone hooked to it. And once it's uploaded, then you can actually edit stuff, and yeah, you can make voices, drum kits. I haven't personally really messed with the sampler at all that's included on the MU2000, but if you ever want to, get yourself a copy of Sol, and there you go. This software actually is the thing that's meant to design that. So yeah, if you haven't noticed yet, well, this software was only sold in Japan, and all the books and the manuals are all in Japanese. if you have your Windows operating system set to English, it does in fact support full English. The software does. I mean, this is in Japanese, but generally speaking, everything is in English. So even though this was never released out of Japan, you can still use it in English, which is very, very helpful. So anyway, before you even install this, you do need to have your driver installed. That's kind of the first step, which if you haven't installed a Midi driver, Yamaha, it shows up here. And here's where, you have your device, my UW500, and then you can remap the ports to your liking. But normally the default is just port 1 is 111. But if you want to send multiple, if you want to send the same thing to multiple devices, or however you want to do it, you can go all crazy on this thing. Yeah, and and I also use the I don't know how to say this because it's German, but I use the Vista Midi mapper. This is useful because in Windows 7 and beyond, you can no longer tell Windows which Midi device you want to use. But this little thing in the control panel does it with me, so I don't have to listen to this anymore. And so, like, for example, I'm using the UW500, and UW501 is actually the DIN ports, the physical DIN ports on the UW500. Well, 2 through 6 all go through the USB and the serial. So essentially I have, this is where you want this set. So, setting to this, if I play, a game that uses MIDI music on this computer that doesn't let you pick your MIDI device, it just uses the Windows default, setting it to this, I can use my MU2000. Or if I want to use my CM64 to play some old DOS games in DOSBox, I'd set it to number 1. So anyway, first you want to have your driver installed and running, and then you want to install Soul. And if you install it in compatibility mode, it will work. At least here in 7. After 7, I don't know. But anyway, okay. So let's say, for example, I just recorded. No, I'm not gonna say that. So for example, I just showed you how I can record, say, a MIDI file from Doom while playing it, and then I actually have my MIDI file saved on my MU2000. So now, of course, I want to actually get it into the computer. Now, you can, of course, just take your, the smart media card, plug it into a USB smart media card reader, and copy it directly. But I don't recommend that, because if you know anything about smart media cards, it's that from Windows XP and beyond, Microsoft really kind of fucked over their support for smart media, meaning it doesn't always happen, but Windows has a tendency to completely rewrite the header every time you insert a smart media card, meaning they get corrupted very easily. Smart media cards are actually getting really hard to find because a lot of them got corrupted and people just threw them in the garbage. And since they don't make them anymore, these 128 meg cards are actually getting kind of expensive. But anyway, if you actually do have a dead one, you can just always load it up in a hex editor and just reset everything to a 0, and that will in fact fix it. But since you don't really want to do that and risk losing your work and your MIDI files, I recommend using the Yamaha card filer. This is actually free. You can download it off their website, but it is included in the Soul CDs and so this is card filer. This is a far safer way to transfer. All you gotta do is load it up here, and then first you just simply need to set it up. MIDI port setup. Make sure it's set to your actual MIDI device, and then just receive. It'll go do, and there you go. And yeah, this is of course the computer. This is actually the card loaded into the MU2000. So for this demonstration, I don't know. Let's do cami.mid. So this is actually a MIDI file from the Super Street Fighter 2 on the X68000, which I recorded already using the sequencer as I showed earlier. So I'm just going to set this to receive. And since this is transferring over a serial connection before it hits the USB and the UW500, it is of course a bit slow, but you're not going to get into any corruption like you might with You know, if you actually use, for example, a USB smart media card reader, because smart media support on XP is crap, and on Windows 7 and beyond, it's just, yeah, it's pretty much garbage. So always use this little card file or transfer program. Go, 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 go. Yay! Okay, and we can just cancel this. And first thing we're gonna do is, so if I load this up in Soul now, basically, you know, here it is. Here's the port, and this is essentially all the MIDI data. So what you do is you just double click on this. But anyway, this is essentially everything that's recorded. I really hope this isn't blaring anyone's ears out. But anyway, yeah, this is everything that's being recorded into the MIDI. Every single note, every little hit, whether it's sharp. Okay, well. Yeah, it's all here. So another thing you could do is if you're actually going to do real editing work here, I'm just going to make a copy of this. So for example, you can also use card filer to do an SMF convert. So for example, I'm just going to convert my copy here. Yay! Okay, done. And now if I load up this, you'll notice that now it's all conveniently separated into every single track. So for example, this is just your basic. Again, I have no idea if you can actually hear this or not. Okay. Well, then here is, you know, channel 2. And, you know, like here's channel 10. This is the drums. So that's all the drum data. So here it's very easy. If you want to do any real editing, you know, you just click what you want, and then you look up what it is, and boom, you edit to your heart's content in the MIDI file itself. Okay, but that's getting a little advanced. So all we're going to do is first hold on. Okay, so we're just going to go back to this one, simply because it kind of does help sometimes to look at all these at once. If you're doing individual instrument editing, it helps divide them out, because then you can just get that instrument that you're looking at. But we're not really going to edit the actual composition. We're just going to mess around with the instrument used, in this case the drum kit. So first we have, you know, here's our general MIDI system on message. It's the very first thing it does. It says general system. General MIDI system on, meaning it just resets it. Some older MIDI files might not actually do this. Might not actually have this just due to the way they were programmed. That's the thing with MIDI files, is sometimes they're really strange because they were just made by a guy behind a computer. So anyway, next thing we want to do here is we want to right click and we want to insert. And we want to go to a system exclusive here, because we want to turn on the XG system. So this is really easy, just hit insert. And now if I hit up, you can't see this obviously, but if I hit up and down here on the module, first it flashes the GM reset message, then the XG system. Okay, and there's our master volume. Now the next thing, now we want to use the plugin board, so now we need to insert another system exclusive, which in this case means we need to go to plugin board and part assign. And if you remember earlier in the video when I hit the enter key twice in the module, that tells you that to assign the plug board that's in slot 1, in this case, which is my drum board, and assign it to channel 10, which is, you know, where the drums actually are being played. Change this to 5, change this to a 9, and insert. Okay. Now it'll actually be able to load in the plugin board assignments. Okay, now we want to go down, 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 down. See, here's where it's setting up instruments. Tenor sax, left bass, but we want channel 10. And first you see it's actually showing it as the drawbar organ, meaning it might change it. So, because depending on how the MIDI file was originally written, some people get really, really lazy, and we'll just assume that, you know, an old module from the old days, you turn the system on and everything is just reset to scratch anyway, so you didn't have to put in reset messages. But if you're using something more advanced like this, and on a modern system, you generally do, because otherwise it doesn't know what the hell you're doing. Okay. Okay, so oops, just realized I forgot to do something. We gotta go back up here and to our plugin board and set this to channel 10. Okay. Now that's set to 10. Should be able to come up here and insert a track voice. So this is a plugin with DVR, and I don't know, live room B. Okay, and now this is this, and this is also needs to be on channel 10. See, now it changes the program, because now that I changed the, this is basically major select bank, if I remember correctly. Basically, this is now set up so that for channel 10 it will select the bank of instruments off of the plugin board, because I already assigned it above. So now this is why this is saying weirdo, because now if I turn this to like 1, like 12, it's going to be ring snares. 1 is live room A. B. You actually don't need this here, because here it's setting it to live room B already. But here, just for example, I threw this in here. Now that that's set up properly, you should be able to go back, play this, and there it goes. Now it's going to be live room B. And now that we've got our plugin board actually working, this is where it gets kind of fun. Crap, I'm running out of time, because now we can kind of go through here and, I don't know, how about number, small room, 13, like Rocky. And now it's playing, you can actually turn the wheel on the module itself. Okay, so now we're gonna go Vector. Oops. Scroll, 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 scroll. More down. And actually, I can even just probably do it here and pick like dry kit B, for example. And that's 8, so 8. And now we play this again. There we go. Now it's automatically switching to dry kit B. Alright, so as far as that basic, you know, using the plug board instead of the built-in standard GM drum, should be working. So now we're just gonna save as, and right now it's trying to save it as a Soul workstation file, but that'll only work with Soul. So we're gonna save this as a standard MIDI file, and we're just gonna call this I don't know, we'll put this in finished for now. Cami dry B. Save it. And assuming all went well, now if I, for example, this with like, just to be sure, I'm going to reset the XG and the drums on the module itself. And then we're going to open this with Windows Media Player, and there it goes, dry kit B running automatically.